everyone, and welcome back to the show that today takes two of the scariest cinema studios of the modern era and tosses them into a pit to duke it out for eternal glory. Now, normally that would sound frightening, but with Blumhouse and A24, the prospect of competing on a show called Versus actually seems like a relaxing stroll in the park compared to what we normally witness in their films. Today's episode will be focusing on the horror and fright adjacent films that these auteur houses have cranked out since their inception, and it's going to be a doozy that will keep us sleeping with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight. Exit the big budgets, but keep the blockbusters. These two movie studios are beloved by filmmakers and audiences alike, even while keeping their costs low. A24 and Blumhouse have managed to create some of the scariest films and franchises in talking picture history, all while spending less than I make in a month doing this show. Yes, I get paid to do this in coupons. They're the money of the 1990s.
I've watched this video enough, I'm starting to feel bad for the kid.
In one corner, you have Blumhouse, the production entity made famous by flicks like Get Out and Split, and franchises like Paranormal Activity and Insidious. In the other corner, it's indie darling A24, whose art house has been turned into myth by films like The Witch, Hereditary, and Under the Skin, and they've released scary movies made by everyone from Denis Villeneuve to Kevin Smith. Two art-focused studios going at it in possibly the most ambitious verses of the season. Who'd we get to write this? All right, me. Good luck.
I knew it.
Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, villains. Round 4, iconic moments. And then we'll do a wild card round that could involve anything from lighthouse shenanigans to creepy home movies, and whoever wins, I probably lose. Not only did I spend a week watching virtually every horror movie from these two studios, now I'm gonna have to break the news to one of them that the other one is better. You know what that's like, to have Toby the Demon stand at the side of your bed with his weird goat feet? Or how about when you upset someone north of the wall and for funsies, they slowly turn you into a walrus? Why did I agree to do this?
Why?
Oh yeah, the fast food coupons. Rallies, here I come. But first, an epic versus the likes of which we may never see again. Also, there's gonna be a lot of scary imagery, so put the kids to bed now. I don't care what time it is. They need to learn that sleep is the most important meal of the day. Or let them watch, I don't care, not my kids, right? Right? Okay, good. A24 and Blumhouse. Fighters ready? Let's get it on. Round 1, box office. What's the best part about making cheap movies? It doesn't matter if anyone comes out to see them. You're bound to turn a profit because your investment was so minimal. But occasionally, unlike me in Las Vegas, A24 and Blumhouse have hit the jackpot at the multiplex, ringing up cash registers like they're slot machines at the Tropicana.
Wow, okay. Thanks for the psychoanalysis.
Yet while Blumhouse has had some huge scores in their day, A24 takes a more tortoise approach than hare. To date, they've had no films cross the legendary $100 million worldwide box office benchmark, but they've still found their way into some big hits. Hereditary is the all-time breadwinner for the brand, notching $81 million at the BO. Ari Aster also directed A24's second highest hauling film, Midsommar, which raked in $46 million. Then Robert Eggers said, "Hold my brew," and made The Witch, which soared to a $40 million take. From there, however, it's mostly single-digit millions, which includes critically adored fare like The Killing of a Sacred Deer at $6 million, Enemy at $4 million, and Ghost Story grossed $2 million. And again, we're only focusing on horror flicks today, so incredible works like Moonlight will be riding the bench. In fact, I only let Ghost Story in because, I mean, it's a ghost, so it's a very well-behaved one, but still a ghost nonetheless.
Hey, just saying.
It's going to be an uphill climb for A24 in this round because Blumhouse has picked up a few franchises along the way that do buffo enough box office to contend with the Disneys and Universals of the world. In fact, Blumhouse has had 4 films to date that have crossed the $200 million standard. Split, Halloween, Get Out, and Paranormal Activity 3, which is the one where they put a camcorder on a fan. Okay, we'll get to that later.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Consider this, A24's entire horror movie catalog has combined to gross $272 million. Split made $278 million on its own. Thanks, wacky twist ending.
Rejoice!
13 more Blumhouse flicks have crossed the $100 million line, including franchise faves like the first 2 Paranormal Activity films, Insidious: The Last Key, and The Purge: Anarchy, which may be the best Punisher movie I've ever seen. But I love you too, Warzone.
You have to let me go.
And the very first Insidious and the M. Night Shyamalan comeback vehicle, The Visit, both got within a couple million bones of hitting $100 million. So now we'll look at averages just to notarize this round as a big W for the House of Blum. A24 films average a $15 million global take compared to, drumroll please, $77 million for Blumhouse. In total, the Blum movies have consumed $4.5 billion, and with sterling franchise staying power, that number could keep climbing sooner rather than later. We haven't heard the last of A24, but round one goes to Blumhouse, and they take an early lead, 1-0.
We handle
Round two, Tomatometer/audience score. I love every single audience member that works hard, pays for a ticket to see a movie, and doesn't take out their cell phone even once. I'll even appreciate a kid who paid for a ticket to see Beethoven 2nd just so they could sneak into Lethal Weapon 3. And it is indeed that audience that could hold sway in this round as well. And with that set up, trivia time. Can you name the first horror feature released by Blumhouse and/or A24?
What is it?
I have a point in asking this, I swear. For Blumhouse, it's 2009's Paranormal Activity. A24 kicked things off in 2014 with Enemy. And now the point I was arriving at. These flicks kind of started the template for creepy, crawly things to come with future releases. Loved by critics, not quite as much with the audience. Now usually with a scary movie, pick any Leprechaun film you want, it's gonna do better with the audience score metric than with the Tomatometer, but that's not the case here. The OGPA is at a sterling 83% on the Maitre de Tomato, but only 57% with the audience. Enemy scored a 71% with critics and cooled off with a 64% with the Good People opening weekend. So this round may in fact come down to who pleased more of us, the folks on this planet who paid money to see Batman Returns and then snuck into Terminator 2.
Hasta la vista, baby.
The highest rated movie according to the Tomatometer for either house is not Get Out. That's at 98% and is a stone cold classic. But Creep 2 is at 100%. That's Toy Story quality right there.
Oh, impressive wingspan. Very good.
Which is fitting because through a certain lens, Buzz and Woody have a lot in common with people like Annabelle, Chucky, and Pinocchio, all of whom are horror movie villains. I'm sorry, but a wooden puppet who's suddenly singing about no string to hold him down is terrifying.
Oh, Jiminy.
Leave me out of this.
A24 has a slew of films in the 90s, including their highest rated double feature of X and Krisha at 95%, followed closely by Saint Maud at 93%, In Fabric at 91%, then 4 movies tied at 90%, including 2 Robert Eggers delights, The Witch and The Lighthouse are there, as is A Ghost Story and Green Room. For Blumhouse, it's Hush, Cam, and Sweetheart knotted up at 93%, followed by The Invisible Man at 92%, and The Gift at 91%. Be nice to your high school classmates. I promise it pays off later in life.
Wow, that's great. Well, I am sorry, and maybe we can get together sometime and have some coffee or something.
Sure, I'd like that.
Okay, we get it. The critics love them some Blum 24. Ooh, if they ever team up, I think we know the name that we're calling them. It's the best company crossover since Moreland Springs. But even fancy art studios have a few bad apples in the bushel. For Blumhouse, that could mean movies like Fantasy Island at 8%, Firestarter at 11%, or Ouija at 6%. Happily, the prequel, Ouija Origin of Evil, did the unthinkable and rebounded all the way up to 83% on the Tomatometer. That might be the biggest comeback in any franchise ever. And it's also a great reminder to never, ever use a Ouija board. I even felt weird typing the word. No thank you.
Calm down. It's only a game.
A24 never reached the depths of an OUIJA. They actually only have 2 movies in the 20s. Dark Places is the low bar at 23%, Woodshock is at 26%, then we can leap all the way up to the 40s with films like Tusk at 46% and False Positive at 48%. And now A24 looks to surge ahead because they only have 6 horror kind of films that are rotten at all on the Tomatometer. Blumhouse? Well, they have more. I lost count after 40.
Aren't you tired?
All told, both studios have a pretty solid average with their scary treats, with A24 fresh at 75% per flick, and Blumhouse rotten but respectable with a 52% per cinematic outing. So now we look to the audience, who, as we now know, tends to be harsher critics than the professional movie reviewers themselves.
Really? All right.
On the audience score, A24 jumps up to 15 films that are rotten, including Men at 40%, and It Comes at Night at 44%. Blumhouse has some franchises hitting the skids in the 20s, with The Craft Legacy at 24%, Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension at 26%, and The First Purge at 27%. Even The Purge Anarchy, which is considered by me to be the Citizen Kane of movies, only made it up to 56% with the audience. So let's put a happy spin on this round. You, the very judgy people of Earth, do happen to enjoy some of these films enough to get them back to fresh. The Black Phone is the high mark for Blumhouse at 91% currently, followed by Get Out at 86%. For A24, it's The Hole in the Ground at 83%, followed by Krisha at 77%. To the averages we go. Blumhouse dips on the audience score metric, notching just 45% per movie. A24 slides as well, but just down to 54%, meaning they will take the win in terms of the audience, the critics, and now, round 2. That's the first point of their afternoon, and the match is tied 1-1. Round 3, Villain. And now the reason why we see these movies in the first place. It's not for the heroes or the helpers or the good side of human nature. It's because we like to see bad stuff go down from the safe, friendly confines of a cinema screen. Boy, do we have a host of baddies, ne'er-do-wells, and even unseen spirits that wreak havoc upon those poor, unsuspecting fools who just moved into a new house, or are settling into a green room, or the dummies who didn't take my advice and effed around with a Ouija board. Look, I don't believe in it, but I don't not believe in it either.
No, it doesn't sound crazy at all.
For Blumhouse, one might naturally conjure memories of the first time we saw Toby's antics in Paranormal Activity. I hear he's a nice guy once you get to know him, but a demon nonetheless.
How come my face is stretched and yours isn't?
Speaking of demonic tutors, it's not just a Magic the Gathering card banned from tournament play, it's also an apt description for Darth Maul's little brother from Insidious. Such a cool look, and really makes venturing into that netherworld a thankless task. Let's also shout out amateur film student Bagul, and both Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton as Millie and the Butcher in the body swap nightmare Freaky.
Shake, bitches. Right?
Over at A24, we have a witch who definitely is in the same weight class as the duck from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
You dress her up like this. No! Yes, a bit.
And I don't really trust that goat at all. Philip from the get-go just didn't look right, and I don't want my kids playing with him. Hereditary has a bevy of scary demons that would rival Toby, led by Payment. All told, there's 72 demons in Hereditary? Jeez, that means we could get like 71 sequels, right? Get to work, Ari Aster.
Fine.
Speaking of Sir Aster, he also treated us to Midsommar, where we get weird stuff ranging from old folks who can't wait to fly to a bear costume. And if you like gaggles of crazy white folks, Get Out is having your cake and eating it too, just don't drink the tea. Bradley Whitford finally gets a role so evil it rivals his award-winning turn as Eric in Billy Madison.
Eric? You're gonna give the company to Eric? He is a bad, bad man.
Similarly lacking in business ethics is wife Catherine Keener, who we had come to trust thanks to fun comedies like The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Wow, were we in for a change-up.
How do you feel now?
And you're just as bad, Allison Williams, the daughter. I trusted you for 45 good minutes. A24 may not spend a ton of bread, but they've still given us some really neat creature features, like Under the Skin, which featured an alien that looks remarkably like Black Widow. Speaking of spiders, they're all over the place in Enemy, and that is a top contender for Segue of the Year.
That's good. That is good.
We also been bestowed with a walrus guy, courtesy of Kevin Smith's Tusk, and whatever that lamb boy thing is in the well-titled film, Lamb. Blumhouse has everything from scary roommates to killers on the loose, and that's just in Happy Death Day. Technology rules the day and is used for non-good in The Invisible Man, so I guess we can blame that suit a little bit? It's kind of evil. And speaking of inanimate objects, the lighthouse itself, from the accurately called film The Lighthouse, drives its inhabitants insane and gives them the worst on-camera gastrointestinal issues since Swiss Army Man. And then there's the board of which we do not speak of in the O movies, plus a cameo in the Paranormal Activity franchise. Also worthy of praise is the underwater aquaplex in the Deep House and their grenade in Fantasy Island. It's like their version of a thermal detonator. There's nothing better than the, grandparents in The Visit and James McAvoy breaking both good and very, very, very bad in Split.
He's done awful things to people and he'll do awful things to you.
I have blue socks too.
But as a kid who was much more freaked out by The Exorcist than Freddy, Jason, and Mikey combined, it's the sights unseen that sometimes scare us the most. And for all the mayhem caused by Toby, for me it's the A24 team-up of Payman's fervent fan base, and the slow creep of the witch that gets me leaning towards A24 here. And then we get Amber slashing tummies in Green Room. So yeah, A24 gets the W in the most competitive round yet. They now have 2 points, and Blumhouse needs a win in the next stage. Round 4, iconic moments. If Blumhouse wants a W here, they're gonna have to earn it.
Why is that?
More than any other genre, horror movies have given us moments that can shock, awe, and terrify. And when you see them in a movie theater opening night, it's almost always followed by a collective laugh by the crowd at how we just got. It's nothing better. If it's a point Jason Blum and company need, they back some solid franchises to achieve it. The Purge has too many baddies to mention, and they range from street dwellers to high-on-the-hog politicos, and even though we slide The Purge anarchy in as a horror movie, big props to Frank Grillo for just kicking so much ass throughout that entire movie. When all crime becomes legal for 12 hours, let's all meet at Grillo's pad.
Look at my face.
Okay.
You remember me?
Also in the House of Blum is Paranormal Activity, which did far more than just kick things off for the studio in the right direction. That one series has given us more thrills, chills, and sleep denial than just about any other horror property ever, and for me, things peaked when we did hit part 3. And how many times do you say that about a scary flick? It's pretty much Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and Paranormal Activity 3, The Oscillating Fan. Remember it? Okay, so as soon as we see that trick, we know it's gonna freak us out, we buckle up, but we still get scared on such a primal level. Even the lesser paranormals have built-in frights that will tickle our spine and keep the lights on until morning. Then we arrive at Insidious, long before Stranger Things showed us the Upside Down, and predating Get Out's The Sunken Place, we got the Netherworld introduction by the great Lin Shaye that mirrored our own reality with a horrifying funhouse mirror. Sinister added to the Blumhouse canon with a perfect mix of terrifying images, jump scares, and just enough twists and turns to keep us on our toes. Oh, I did mention Get Out, right?
Oh, no. 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 No.
Our introduction to this bizarre Sith mind trick was seeing very odd jogging in the middle of the night and witnessing a maid only be able to muster a single teardrop as a means of crying for help. Daniel Kaluuya is terrific, and Little Rel Howery is a much needed comic relief that never fails to knock a lion out of the stadium.
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.
Well, that's a lot of Blumhouse gushing, Mark, you handsome devil, is what everyone rooting for A24 is screaming. Me? I was just screaming throughout the entire second half of Hereditary, especially when we all learned the lesson that sticking your head out of a car window is a stunt best left to Molly the Wonder Dog. A climax filled with fire, brimstone, and pagan rituals manages to supersede our expectations up to that point, which is impressive because the movie had me from the word go. You're never gonna look at a Barbie dream house the same way. Midsommar continued the trend of graphic depictions of inventive ways to meet one's end. Those old folks, they seem thrilled to get their moment in the sun, and the way Ari Aster films that sequence is just so stunning in its simplicity and its finality. Those two, they're definitely in the NFL concussion protocol. The Witch leans on Northeast mythology to summon a suspenseful masterclass in pacing and paying off at the end. Thomason taking flight with her new occupation is worth the build-up, and again, I cannot stress this enough, goats are not toys. Stick with the video games, children. The violent portrayals in A24 fare, like Green Room and Under the Skin, are handled with such inventiveness that it never feels like torture porn, even as characters are losing their literal bodies to an insidious entity. Thanks for the loan, Blumhouse. And then we get downright weird with a podcast gone very wrong in Tusk, and it just gets stranger with Lamb. My all-time moment for this entire studio, though, might be in The Blackcoat's Daughter. It's an exorcism with a side of, what the H? It's very rare to say don't go to a freaking demon, but that movie pulls it off. However, the sheer volume of Blumhouse offerings really gives it a shot in the arm in this round. For every franchise moment, like when The Purge kicks off, there's also one-offs that stay with you, like the cool ending to Oculus that made me not look in a mirror for an entire month. The final showdown in Black Christmas or the hallway tussle in The Invisible Man are also worthy of praise. In the end, pound for pound, these two movie houses are deadlocked in a tie, so I gotta go with Blumhouse for being so prolific with quality content since 2009. They have the round that they needed to take, and the ball game is once again tied 2-2.
I never should have listened to you. This is all your fault.
And now it's time for the wild card round. Y'all ready for this? A24 Unlimited. They had Y'all Ready for This and Twilight Zone as their biggest jock jam hits, which are still played at virtually every basketball game from Madison Square Garden to the Fabulous Forum or the Staples Center or Crypto World, wherever the Lakers play now. The point is, our expert researcher Mark Hoffmeyer had a spectacular tie-breaking concept in the vein of hoops that I will now borrow and take credit for because 1, it's a great idea, and 2, it makes my job a lot easier.
Okay.
You see, basketball features 2 teams battling it out for glory, rings, and greatness that are each comprised of 5 starting players. You see where we're going with this yet? So for Blumhouse and A24, I'm gonna give them each 5 films to represent their squad. The best of the best, the fabbest 5 in the fiefdom. To the winner will go the point in this round and thus win the match. It's a cool concept, right? Glad I thought of it.
Get the f out of here.
For Blumhouse, your starting lineup is Get Out, Paranormal Activity 3, Split, Insidious, and The Invisible Man. Just think of how many players James McAvoy can guard with all those personalities of his. It might get weird in the locker room, though.
Everybody just take a minute.
And now the starting lineup for A24, Hereditary, Green Room, X, Under the Skin, and number 23, from North Carolina, The Witch.
Boo!
A note to Michael Jordan, I did not just compare you to a witch. You used your supernatural powers for good. It was just a fun introductions joke. Thanks as always for watching the program. MJ hasn't missed a show yet.
What's going on here?
And now to settle things on the court. What I love about both squads is the variety with which they can scare us. Divergent tactics like found footage work for Paranormal Activity 3, super violent sequences rule the day for Green Room. But the star of A24 is Hereditary. Simple, because it's the perfect mesh of quiet, unsettling nerves fraying like in The Witch, but then we're rewarded for sitting on the edge of our seat with sequences that make X and Green Room's most horrific imagery look like child's play. Blumhouse features a nice combo of crowd-pleasing blockbusters like The Invisible Man and Get Out, but they have more than just popcorn pushing as a purpose. There's some deep themes going on here, and for all the surprise scares we receive thanks to PA3 and Insidious, it's the psychological frights courtesy of the human condition that truly stand out with Get Out, The Invisible Fella, and even Split. A24 uses more subversive angles to weave a masterful tale. The Witch and Under the Skin can sneak up on you. X can strongly caution one against swamp creatures. And then there's Green Room just waiting to bludgeon your eyeballs for 100 straight minutes.
It's f***ing hard, man.
I've been in many a bad comedy club green room, but nothing like that movie. I will never again complain about a lawn chair and a broken mini fridge. Clubs, you know who you are.
Careful now.
But for all the greatness of A24 and their incredibly powerful filmmaking stable, the pick and roll offense of A+ social commentary like Get Out and The Invisible Man make for a formidable duo. Insidious gives us your more classic style scarefest with frightful delights around every corner. Split is an acting graduate course, and Paranormal Activity 3 is just pure found footage fun. And that's coming from a guy who loved The Visit and was tempted to put that movie in instead. Hereditary and The Witch are all-timers for me, but as a whole, I feel like Team Blumhouse lasts deeper into a nail-biting 7-game series, and obviously they have the more potent bench when it's time to put in the reserves. This should be a fun battle to revisit down the road, but for right now, to get a win in this game, this series, this round, and now the match, it goes to Blumhouse. 'Twas an all-timer here, kids, and whichever way I went, I really couldn't go wrong, which is a nice way of saying there was no way I could be 100% right.
See ya.
Make sure you keep your eyes peeled to the great new content that seems to emerge from these two studios on a weekly basis. When you see Blumhouse, you know you're in for a great horror ride. And that A24 logo can signal a good scary story, but it may also be a hard-hitting drama, or something so wholly inventive it defies sectionalization at your local Blockbuster video, if you live in Bend, Oregon. And as always, this is all just my humble opinion. Now it's your turn, Earth, the other 7 planets, and whatever we're currently labeling Pluto as. Hit me up on social media with your take as to who is the better studio, at Mark Ellis Live, and keep it tuned right here to Rotten Tomatoes for all the latest in movies, TV, and other things that will scare the crap out of us. Thanks for watching Versus. I'm Mark Ellis, and for goodness sakes, keep your head inside the car while on the road to Grandma's. Actually, given the events of the visit, just turn that car around and go back home. You'll thank me later. Don't talk to ghosts.